All right, people are taking things more seriously after Venezuela, after Maduro, after Trump saying stuff. Now people are looking at certain things and seeing with a fine-tooth comb like what might be coming up and what's going on next. And so I want to talk a little bit about the recent, not only just briefly the ICE fatality, but also some of the National Guard stuff and the talk around the Insurrection Act. If you haven't heard this whole thing, there's a lot of press conference, a lot of stuff that Trump has said over the last a few months that indicates that this might be something that is the direction of where we might be going. So I'm going to take a look at a couple of things, what he said, we'll show some clips, and then just get right into it. So a recent Minnesota fatality where it's going viral, the fatal shooting from an ICE officer to, I think, a 37-year-old female, is sparking a lot of outrage and just debate over what's justified in terms of self-defense and what's legal and all that stuff. So I'm not going to get into too much of that, but just know that that has sparked a lot of things, especially with Governor Tim Walz having now not seeking re-election, and then in order or having an order being issued to prepare the state's National Guard while urging peaceful protest after this ICE fatality. And so a lot of people just kind of debating and talking more about, again, some of the National Guard stuff. And Trump recently was talking about this very thing. So let's take a quick listen.
Speaking of Los Angeles, the National Guard, you pulled out the National Guard out of Portland.
We did.
In Los Angeles.
And you know what? Do you know that Portland, we got it down to almost no crime? Do you know that? But we pulled it out. We had a Supreme Court decision. We can go back. We're allowed to go back in. But we'll go back in when the crime starts. Look, the crime will soon start because they now know that we're out. And at the appropriate time, we'll go back in, and we may, if we're allowed to. The most powerful thing we haven't used the Insurrection Act.
You're considering using the Insurrection Act?
I've always considered it, but we haven't needed it anywhere. 48% of the presidents of this country have used it. Bush used it, I think, 22 times or something. You know that, right? I mean, Bush the elder.
Now that's very interesting because he's talking about the Insurrection Act, but specifically, look at what he said. He said that George W. Bush, the senior, used it 22 times. It's coming from a post from Paul who looked at this. But President Bush only invoked the Insurrection Act twice during his single term in office. And those are here, as I'm showing here, the two cases, one in 1989 and one in 1992. And that means that number 22, again, this is just a possibility, but going to Q drop number 22, what does it say? It says, who controls the National Guard? Why was the National Guard recently activated in select cities within the U.S.? Can the National Guard work in coordination with the Marines? Do conditions need to be satisfied to authorize? What former president used the military to save the Republic, and what occurred exactly? Biggest drop to ever be provided on political policy study and prepare. The biggest drop ever to be provided on poll. Study and prepare. The masses tend to panic in such situations. No war, no civil unrest, clean and swift. And this is coming from a video back in October of 2025 on the 13th where he was asked again about this. So let's take a quick listen.
The Insurrection Act?
Well, I could use it. If I wanted to, I could use it. Look, that's a very simple answer. I'm allowed to use the Insurrection Act. In fact, that was on Stephanopoulos today, his Sloppodopoulos show. They asked sloppy Chris Christie about the Insurrection Act. He said, well, if you're talking about the Insurrection Act, he's got the absolute right to use that. And he said a couple of things that were good. He said 50% of the presidents that served in office have used the Insurrection Act. And the Insurrection Act, according to all of them, said it can't even be challenged. I don't have to go there yet because I'm winning on appeal. You're right. We're losing with radical left judges, generally, radical left judges, and we're winning on appeal. So we'll see what happens.
So again, it's been a repeated theme of bringing up the Insurrection Act, being questioned about it, having all this National Guard activity, having legal things to kind of go over with regards to the judges and all that stuff. But this is very interesting. Now, this comes from Matt, XRP Patriot, but the military is the only way. I'm just going to read his post here. Let's set the record straight. The Insurrection Act isn't a loophole. It's the law. It's the safeguard our founders built to preserve the Union when states refuse to protect the rights of their citizens or enforce federal law under normal conditions. The military doesn't act as police. That's what the Posse Comitatus Act prevents. But when governors or mayors abandon their duty, when violence, defiance, or political theater make enforcement impossible, The Insurrection Act allows the president to act not to conquer the states, but to restore order, protect citizens, and reestablish the rule of law. Here's how it works. There are 3 legal pathways for invoking it. 1, when a state requests help during rebellion or unrest. 2, when federal law can't be enforced by normal means because of obstruction or rebellion. And 3, when state leaders refuse to protect constitutional rights or defy federal authority altogether before troops move. The president must first issue a public proclamation, order agitators to disperse a final warning before action. It's not martial law. Let's be clear. Civil government continues. Military's role is supportive, not supreme. And the president's power is still bound by the Constitution, judicial review, and public accountability. The act has been used by presidents Jefferson, Eisenhower, Kennedy, Johnson, and Bush Sr., always to uphold the law when local leaders fail to do so. Today, some governors and mayors threaten federal officers, ignore immigration law, and even promise to prosecute ICE agents. The stage is set for another showdown. If that moment comes, the Insurrection Act is the legal mechanism that defines where state defiance ends and federal authority begins. My friends, we're all anonymous. And remember, law without enforcement is chaos. The Insurrection Act exists to prevent exactly that. You got to remember, right now, there's a war on the population, there's a media war, there's a perspective, there's a narrative war, and Trump, many others are being demonized as being, and just think about January 6th, think about all the things that have happened, and demonizing ICE, demonizing the rule of law, and people doing good things. And of course, there's some bad actors within it, trying to do good things with the perspective of the legal means and the rights to do that, but then that being demonized. A lot of that ICE stuff, a lot of the immigration stuff, many people are drawing this blurry sort of boundary for where people need to do what stuff. But there's a constitutional order. There's a rhyme and a reason for some of the stuff that is being done. And people, especially leaders, are going to cry wolf. And you know, as Q has talked about, many of these guys, the loudest people in the room, are the treasonous people. And they're trying to cover it up by projecting what their crimes are to Trump and other people by switching it up and saying, I didn't do it, they did it. And they're trying to blur this moral boundary. And so I just want to bring this to your guys' attention as possibly the next thing or act that's on the table, because it's being brought up more and more. And again, everybody was laughing about other stuff. People are even talking about Colombia, the leader, and just many others. Venezuela, back from the summer and before, there was a bounty, there were things, there were just a lot of talk, and look what happened. Actual action took place. So we got to make sure that we are in prayer, we're able to see the correct perspective on what the lay of the land is, and especially be ready as some of these things happen, because don't be surprised. It's not some overthrow of the government. It's not something where Trump, again, is doing this and that and people are demonizing it. There's a rhyme and a reason. Everything is being done by the rule of law. And so I just wanted to bring this to your guys' attention. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below, but more to come. Talk to you guys very soon.